What's going on YouTube? Today we're going to be checking out another 3-axis gimbal, this time the MOZA Air. So everything comes in this huge padded carrying case, and because I purchased from Pergear, I got a little cleaning kit as well as this little miniature tripod, which is great for stabilizing. First, we've got the actual 3-axis gimbal. This is the primary handle that's also going to hold the 3 batteries. They're going to go down negative down first, on top of one another, and then go into the actual gimbal. This is the T-bar for attaching the double mount, and down here are the 2 independent handles that you would attach to the T-bar. Got a battery charger. This one's actually a 4-bay, which is a little weird, but whatever. It works and it fits the 3 batteries, so you can be set up with a single charging unit. Quick release plate. This is a little lens support that you can attach to the front of the gimbal if you've got a heavier, bigger lens. And lastly, this little pouch, which has USB cables for all the different brands, such as Sony, Panasonic, and Canon. Alright guys, so now I'm going to show you how to stabilize the MOZA Air. First thing, you're going to want to attach the included tripod base so that you have a steady surface and you're not trying to balance it on this bottom piece right here. And you can do this with either the double hand attachment or the single hand, it doesn't matter. There may be a quick plate accessory included in your package. If not, I highly suggest picking one up, because while it won't make this any easier, it will make down the road when you take the camera on and off, and make it easier so you don't have to restabilize everything. Your quick plate will still be in the position for the camera, especially if you're using the same lens and setup regularly on the gimbal. The other important note is to make sure your camera is set up exactly how you plan on shooting with it. So if you plan on using any audio equipment, make sure that's attached, make sure your lens hood is the right way, make sure your lens cap is off. You want everything to be the same so that it doesn't get thrown off later if you make changes to it. Now, I'm not quite sure that I'm going to continue using this lens on here, so I'm going to leave the quick plate off for now and just show you how to mount the actual camera. So these are 3-axis gimbals. This one right here is our tilt. This one back here facing you is the roll, and this one on the bottom is the yaw control. So to start, you're going to want to pick either the inside or the outside track based on the camera size. So for larger cameras, you're going to want to use the outside track, and for smaller cameras, you're going to want to use the inside track. And since this is a lighter A6500, we're just going to use the inside track. So the first thing you want to do is either point your camera straight downward or straight upward, and then adjust the tilt axis until it stays level. So bring it forward or backward towards you until it doesn't fall over anymore. And while doing this, you're going to want to support the roll arm so that that doesn't influence anything. And right there, it looks about perfect, so we're going to tighten it down. Next up, we're going to put the camera forward, and we want to make sure that it's not falling backwards or forwards. And to modify that, we're going to go back to the plate here, and we're going to move it forward or backward until we get it perfectly level. Again, you're going to want to support the roll arm here. Before you tighten this down, make sure that your camera is nice and straight. That way your shooting angle isn't weird for how you hold it. Okay, so now our camera is balanced both this direction as well as this direction. So next up, we have to work on the roll arm. As you can see, the camera right now wants to fall to the right. So we're going to modify this back roll arm until we get that perfectly level by pushing it left to counter that right fall. And a tiny bit of wiggle is okay, but the reason you want to make sure that the movement is as little as possible is so that the motors aren't doing a lot of work once you start moving this. Okay, so now we've got it on the side, and this I actually like to have the double arm attachment because it provides a little bit of a base for it to sit on while you do this. But here we want to see if we let go of this arm, if that's going to fall in either direction. We want to get that as balanced as possible as well. All right, everything looks really good. And once all that's set, you can safely turn it on. Now we've got everything nice and stabilized to counteract our movement. Okay, so there's also those USB cables that were included for various brands, I believe Canon, Sony, and Panasonic. And those actually plug right up here near the tilt gimbal and then into your camera to connect to the device. Having the USB cables plugged in will allow some level of control with different cameras and camera brands. Specifically, on some Canon cameras, you can actually get follow focus with use with the thumb controller. The thumb controller is a $200 accessory that you can either attach and use for your own controls with the double mount, or you can hand it off to somebody else so that you can focus on getting steady footage while they control some of the zooming, panning, or focusing aspect. Now I'm going to open up the MOZA app and we're going to see what levels of control that actually provides us. Easily detected the device, instant pairing. We've got a really nice battery gauge, really clear on the home page, and it also has a little Bluetooth meter to tell you how strong your connection is. So that'll let you know when you're getting out of range from control. So the first thing, I'm gonna go in and you can turn on and off the follow enable. As you can see, that instantly worked. We're gonna turn the follow enable back on. So in the parameter settings, you can turn on and off the different follow modes. You can set the parameters for the minimum and the maximum angles that it's going to follow or it's going to go. You can also modify the speed at which both the follow settings as well as the control settings are going to move in. And that's just really nice so that you can fine tune it to behave exactly how you want it to for whatever you're shooting, and you can change it up for different projects. Now, one of the primary functions of the USB cable, I think this works on all the brands, is a time-lapse function so that you can set up the path and distance and modify everything. And why it's helpful to have this level of control is because the gimbal will only move when the camera is not taking a photograph, so you aren't getting any movement in your images. So you can see in this control window, we can actually set the shutter interval, the shutter duration, clip length, and it does all the math for you so that you can just set it up and go on your way. Another cool thing that that USB provides is that you can actually record with a quick press of the power button on the device. So overall, the footage from the MOZA Air looks fantastic. The price is pretty good at $599, especially for having a 5-pound payload, so you can get a lot of camera on this bad boy. The only thing that I really feel like I'm giving up with the MOZA Air is not having a trigger to detach from all the follow settings. Talked about this in my video on the Feiyu A2000. I like having the follow settings enabled for single-handed use and then having that trigger so that I can instantly detach from those settings to where the camera will just point forward and kind of stay on the subject despite wherever my hand moves. But beyond that, I think that the MOZA Air is great at its price point. It stabilizes the footage really, really well. I have to say, the MOZA Air was probably one of my most hassle-free experiences when setting up a gimbal. A lot of times these things just have weird quirks where they just move in random directions or detach from the stabilization, and you're really not quite sure what happened to influence those settings. You have to like reset settings, turn it on and off, and there was none of that with this. It just worked. Every time I told it to behave a certain way, it did that without any frills. So the user experience of the MOZA Air is just really, really nice, especially if it's your first gimbal. Price point is great, $599, including the dual-handed system is awesome. Especially since it includes all the accessories that you need to get set up and get going. You don't have to purchase anything extra, like purchasing double handles. The only other purchase that you might want to consider with this is that extra thumb controller, which is an additional $200. So I highly recommend the MOZA Air if you're looking for something to stabilize your on-the-go footage for any cameras that are light to medium weight. And I do really like the price point considering its payload capacity. I'd really like to see some new firmware updates, especially follow focus. I'd really love to get that follow focus control on Sony cameras. For once, I'm actually envious of Canon users. That doesn't happen very often. That can really elevate what you're able to capture as a single user or even with a small crew. If this video helped you out, please hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and if you want to join my photography gear chat group on Facebook, it's a place where you can talk shop with me and thousands of other photographers. That link's in the description as well. Until next time, keep on shooting, YouTube. I need outro music.